Alrighty, Rue. We have the 2025 tier list for the F1 teams, in my perspective. So, looking back on this year's season, really just ranking where these teams ended up and where we think they fall on the tier list. Let's get started, I guess. So, starting with the first team here, Red Bull Racing, the Racing Bulls. I will say, very impressed with how this team was this year. In the past, they've been, very behind Red Bull, which is explainable because of funding and whatnot. But I gotta say, this year they've really stepped it up, and because of that, they're deserving of a higher spot on the tier list. So they are going to be getting a C tier. There we go. So yeah, I think really impressed with the way they stepped up this year. Having Hadjar, he's obviously going to Red Bull next year, but I think he really drove well. Lawson, he was good when he needed to be good, but he wasn't always consistently good. But that's where I'm going to be putting them. Moving forward, looking at Stake. I mean, guys, what are we doing here? I mean, we're waiting for that transition to Cadillac next year, but I think this year's performance really wasn't great. And I think it's deserving of an E tier. Nothing to say here, nothing really special. But I guess moving forward, looking at our next team here, Williams. I think Williams this year really stood up. They really impressed me. Obviously, super historically successful team, and in their last, I would say, decade or so, they've been pretty bad, and they're known as that kind of lower end teams. But I think this year, especially with their driver lineup, they were really able to step up, and I think they're really deserving of a C tier. They're obviously still a midfield team, but I think it's really they're going in the right direction. Let's put it that way. Looking at Haas, I was impressed with Haas this season, but I don't think they're still up to the level of the Racing Bulls and the Williams. However, having someone like Behrman on the team, he really showed up when he needed to show up this year, and I think having that going forward is going to be really good. And I want to see how he's going to progress through the Ferrari racing program during his time with the Haas F1 team. So, as such, they are going to be getting a D tier, but I think next season that they might move up into a C tier team. So next, Alpine. I mean, I don't even know what to say here. They were terrible this season. Absolutely terrible. I know they used to be a pretty high midfield team a couple seasons ago, especially when they had Checo on it, when they used to be the Force India team, which is what, 6-8 years ago? But I don't know what's gone on with the team. They were horrid this year. They Q1 eliminations were all over the board, and they just were not good. So they are getting, they're going right to the bottom. They're getting an F tier. McLaren, come on. Constructors champion, had two drivers fighting for the drivers championship right into the last race. Got given to Lando. Obviously, Piastri was a great breakout season for him. To be so young and to be competing for the title is super impressive. Overall, as a team this year, I think they had the fastest pit stop. Their car was unstoppable through the first half of the season. They're going to be getting an S tier. I mean, what else can you say? Looking at Aston Martin, I actually will say they turned it around. They had a kind of rocky start to the season, but I will say near the end of the season, with Stroll and Alonso, kind of having that complement of having Alonso's experience, he's still goated. Changed my mind. They really stepped it up, and I think they're deserving of a C tier. I mean, they're at the start of the season, I would have maybe said differently, but near the end, they really started to get both cars into Q3, finishing in the points each race. Very impressive. So now moving on to, we have three teams left: the Red Bulls, we got Ferraris, and we got the Mercedes. This is where I think things get a little interesting. Looking at Red Bull, great season. Obviously, still struggling to find that second driver that can complement Max, but as a whole and as a team, to be able to turn it around when McLaren's were dominating and to really build a car around Max that did so well and put Max in the position to have a fight for the championship, they're deserving of this ranking, and I'm going to be giving them an A tier. Great team, great performance on the year. Now, Ferrari. I am putting them higher up the board just because, they did finish, I think it was third in the constructors. But, I mean, guys, disappointing. They've got Lewis Hamilton, amazing driver, many world championships. Charles Leclerc, young, talented, and yet they still can't win. They still suck. They still can't put these guys in a scenario. Lewis Hamilton, two Q3 exits or Q1 exits in the last 3 races or 4 races. Don't know what's going on. They are still going to get up the tier list on my rankings, and I will be giving them a B tier. But they've really got to turn it around for next year. So looking at our last team, Mercedes, we've obviously got, two young drivers, George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, very talented. I think that the car struggled a little bit at points in the year, but I think overall as a season, it was really impressive, and they were able to secure that second place in the Constructors' Championship. And I think, with these two young drivers, if they can build a car that's good, they've got high potential. And so because of that, I'm going to be putting them on par with Ferrari, but debatably could have been in the A tier here. But yeah, these are my rankings. You can let me know if you agree or disagree with them. But I think, McLaren obviously had a standout year. They were in another world themselves. That's why they're deserving that S tier. But, we'll see how this really shapes up for next season. But we'll be around next year for that. See ya.